Hi, Flosstube. It's Arlene. It's Thursday, November 9th, and I'm really glad to be spending some time with you here. I am pretty sure I'm going to title this, What Have I Been Up To? Because I have such the variety of things to share today. I know it's been a while, and I'm going to kind of cover the whole range. Uh, I'll just start out by saying that this fall has been a tough school year for me, that my school year is kicking my butt on all kinds of levels, physically, mentally, and emotionally, certainly. And so that's contributed to my less than regular floss tubing that I was doing last spring and throughout the summer. So I'm just going to be glad for any time I can make this happen. I so appreciate my stitching world. I so appreciate all of you out there. And I use every bit of my stitching world to take a break from the teaching world because it's needed. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And I'm going to move into all the stuff I have in front of me right now. I want to catch you up in a sort of chronological order, or at least as much as I've put together in chronological order on my list here. So without knowing specifically which video it was, I know a few videos back I was sharing with you about one of the projects I was working on, a little bit out of stitching world, but totally related, was Halloween costumes. And I just feel the need to kind of wrap up that topic by acknowledging that Halloween has passed. And here's a picture of my niece and nephew dressed as Poppy and Branch, which were the two costumes that I showed you that were close to being done at the point that I showed them to you. So my niece is almost 6. She'll be 6 in December. My nephew is 2 and a bit. And the pretty amazing thing is the fact that he kept his hair on or the wig or the blue stuff that I had created. My sister said that they had a great time and the costumes were a big hit. And my niece is very sweet and knows how to say thank you, and that has meant a lot to me. So another successful Halloween costume year in the books. And it's just nice to kind of share that piece with you. So Halloween costumes were done early, mid-October, whenever that was. And then I had done a video with sharing with you about the patterns that I had found at the library and was selling or put out for sale. And just wanted to wrap up that piece, or sort of just to come back again and say thank you to everyone who purchased. I was so glad to put them in hands of people who, I mean, some of you who really wanted them. There was one pattern in particular that I could have sold easily 10 or 12 times if I had 10 or 12 copies of it. I still have about 50 of them. That video, which is 15.5, my Flosstube 15.5, which I'll link below, I try and keep it updated with what number patterns are still available. So you can go and just do a scroll without actually watching the whole video. You can scroll through and pause and watch, see the specific patterns if you're still interested. I'm going to leave that video up just because I'm not focusing right now on taking the time to sell off those patterns in another format. At some point, I'll take the video down and sell them in some other way. But for right now, it's still available for you if you are interested in buying any of those patterns that are brand new, never used. They were just in storage. They were from a stitching store that had closed. They're available. If you're interested, you email me, worksbyabc@gmail.com. Tell me what patterns you want by number and name. We work it out. PayPal is the way to go. So that project took up a bit of time, but again, for me, it was part of my stitching world. It was interacting with so many of you. It was interacting with patterns and acknowledging, I mean, some people were just so excited to see something that they had wanted or so on. So for me, even though it took away some hours from stitching, it was all good. It was still part of the world, and still part, I'll go back to saying it, of being with my people in a way. So then, chronologically, keep moving here. The last video, which was almost 3 weeks ago at this point, was when I came here and proposed this idea for a Flosstube retreat. And what a response that got. So some of you that are watching probably know about this because you joined the Facebook group, you've been involved, you've signed up. And I'm also aware that some of you maybe watched that video and maybe didn't watch the whole thing because said, oh no, not interested or whatever. I'm just going to play a little catch up here. And I also just want to share the story of, yeah, I'm a storyteller, and here's the story. So I posted that video on a Friday night that weekend. And basically, if you, the deal was, if you were interested, come join the Facebook group, working out the details from there. So that weekend flooded on the Facebook group, people sharing opinions about which date, the March date or the May date they were interested in. By Tuesday, made the call in conversation with McKenna, sharing with her the details or the data of the numbers of interest. There was definitely interest in both dates, but the May clearly had a more interest, boom, done. So by Tuesday, like 4 days, 5, whatever, after I just proposed the idea, there were, because the other thing I had needed at the point when I proposed it was that I needed a minimum of 50 people interested. By Tuesday, I was writing down names just to have a clear list. I had, I think, 53 or whatever that had said definitely yes. That wasn't even counting the maybes. So that's why I made the call by Tuesday of that week saying, all right, we're going with the May dates. And then literally I had people wanting to throw money at me. All right, how do I sign up? How do I do this? So I needed to put off the registration part till the weekend. And there were 2 components to that. One is there was so much interest. I wanted to see if I needed to go back up to the hotel and scope out the 2 possible rooms, see if I could feel comfortable in a larger room, which is what we ended up doing. Ended at first expanding it to 60. Then once I went up there saying, all right, you know what, 70 could be fine in this room. And also because I knew that what I was going to do for the registration was going to take a chunk of time to make it happen. And for my life, I can't do that on a weekday, certainly on a weekday night even. So I needed a weekend time. So that Sunday, keep in mind, this is all of 9 days after I proposed the idea, okay? So by that Sunday, I was opening registration, and that, I posted on the Facebook group the day before, this is how we're going to do it, laid out very clear rules of, what you were signing up for and everything, and come back at 2 p.m. on Sunday for the official post of, the last step of information, and registering by sending in money. I mean, that it was, you were committing by sending in money. And McKenna was at the Minnesota retreat that weekend. So I was having a little communication with her about some of the details. We were both really nervous about the numbers. There was so much excitement by the posts and everything. And I thought by going to 70, okay, so much nervousness about people wondering, oh my God, can I get in? I was hoping by going to 70, what would happen would be that there would be, 50 or 60 people who were really anxious to get in. And then that would leave a nice little buffer for anyone who would come after that. Okay, that's not how it played out. So this is what 2 p.m. felt like for me on that Sunday afternoon. So I go to set up my post, that I'm officially opening registration. Here's what you need to do. I type it out. I hit post on Facebook, and then I refresh the page. And, I can't say how you do this consistently because I don't always see it on Facebook, but occasionally you see a post where it says seen by, and it gives you a number. and maybe that's only because I'm an admin of the Facebook page, or I was pinning the post. I don't know what it is. You don't see that all the time, okay? I refreshed the page, and it said, like seconds, like 3 seconds after I hit post, and then I refreshed the page, seen by 53 people. And I thought, oh my God, there's 53 people waiting for this post, let alone who I'm missing by mere seconds. So I immediately flip over to my PayPal screen, and I start watching and refreshing and refreshing. The cost of the retreat was $100. So, and I knew there were some people that were going to register for themselves and a friend, which we had said was okay as long as the information was coming in. So I was doing it purely by how much money was in my PayPal account. Okay, I've never seen this happen. You know, refresh, $1,500, refresh, $2,700, refresh, $3,800. I mean, $5,000, like instantly. And I was like, is it going to stop? Because again, I knew, all right, so for those first few thousand, the first, 50, 60 people, sure, I did expect that. But at about the 15, 18-minute mark, it was at 6,900, 69 people. And it stayed there for about 2 minutes. And I'm like, okay. And we had said 70. And I thought, all right, so I went over to the Facebook page. Meanwhile, like I did check back in those minutes. What I started to see were people on the Facebook page had done things like done, paid, I did it. And there was this craziness going back and forth. And there were these jokes about it's like the Hunger Games. And I mean, it was funny. And at the same time, I wanted to get together my people, my friends, my Flosstube friends to come together to a retreat. And I didn't expect it in any way to become this crazy out, like just instant. We filled the 70 slots in less than 20 minutes. So my PayPal number was holding steady. I went over to the Facebook page and I'm like, because I'd said this is what I would do if it got, I didn't think I'd be doing it at the 20-minute mark. I thought maybe an hour into it I'd be doing it. But I go over there and my post, if I edited the post, holy crap, people, this is like concert tickets. Stop sending money. I think I'm filled. I think, I kind of left things vague, okay? The time it took me to write that and then go back, the PayPal number had climbed again. I go back to the Facebook page. New edit. PayPal number has climbed. Stop sending money. And it was this, oh my gosh, what do I do? And it was so stressful just because I'm the kind of person that wants to offer good things to people. And that's all I was doing in offering this, putting myself out there. I'm doing this retreat, just to be clear, I'm not making any money off of this. I'm putting in my own time and effort to just have an event to get people together. And I hate disappointing people. I hate, there were some people that really wanted to be a part of this. And if they weren't regular Facebook people, they didn't seem to realize that, oh my gosh, if they weren't there at 2 o'clock on the dot, they missed out. So I was like shaking at, 2:25 of, oh my God, what do I do? Because already started the posts of, oh, I missed it. Seriously? Did I really miss it? Kind of things. And I was trying, because I knew the number was over 70 and, I was trying to like just calm myself down, how to handle this. And meanwhile, I knew McKenna was sitting, either she was already boarded a plane or was nearabouts to doing that because she was leaving from Minnesota to go back home from her retreat. Although I did get a brief message from her that indicated she was still sitting at the gate, so I sort of knew she had been watching this. And so I posted of, okay, everyone's going to take a deep breath now. I was mostly saying that to myself. And I was going to start going through and sending confirmation emails. And I wrote, it was the honest thing. I said, I feel like I do when I'm handing back tests to my students. Some of you are really excited about how you did, but you need to acknowledge that some of you may not have done very well, and I don't want to hear the happy dances yet. Because I didn't know those last few people, like, I was just so thrown off by a number of factors, okay? And it took me, I'm not exaggerating, I was sitting on the couch, like barely, I think I got up for water once and go to the bathroom once kind of thing, 3.5 hours straight of clicking between PayPal and my spreadsheet and emailing people, you know, just in a nice regular pattern. And when all things were said and done, it was 75 people. And it just felt like, okay, we can make 5 more people work in the room rather than having to take those 5 people and put them on a wait list. You know what? Okay. 75 people sent money in 20 minutes. Okay. So if you've been hearing stories, whether they be on Flosstube videos or wherever, about the New Jersey retreat and how it sold out, okay, I'm telling you the firsthand story of how that actually happened. So not what I was expecting. I'm glad there's so much interest. I'm glad so many people want to get together and meet one another and stitch and just have a good time. And I'm sad for any disappointment for those that didn't get to be a part of it. I have to say the obvious, because there were a few people that didn't seem to process this. The size is partially based on the size of a room that we have for stitching. We're not going to cram 120 people in a room that's just going to make for a really uncomfortable stitching room. So I did, since that point, started taking people on a wait list. And if you would like to be added to the wait list, you can email me at worksbyabc@gmail.com. You know, it'll be great and wonderful, and it clearly shows that there's a lot of interest in getting together within our community. And for that, it's great and it's wonderful. There's one piece of this that I feel like I need to say, and so I'm just going to say it. If you watch McKenna's videos, she addressed this a little bit, and I'm going to tag along and add to it. Sometimes on Flosstube, or it comes out on Instagram, or occasionally on YouTube, we use the word drama. Now, as a middle school teacher, I hear the word drama a lot. And sometimes it's capital D drama, and sometimes it's small d drama. And sometimes it gets said, and then all that happens is others want to know, well, what happened? What happened? And because it's about me, I want to set the record straight. In the craziness of that Sunday afternoon, there was a little bit of nastiness that happened on the Facebook page. And so anyone who was on there saw what boils down to a couple of people saying some nasty things. And let's be clear, 99% of our community, I'll even go as so far as to say 99.5% of our community is wonderful. The positive comments, the people who have said thank you to me over and over for me organizing this is wonderful. But there were some nasty coming from just a couple people comments. And when that happens on Facebook, some people witness it, but those comments can be deleted and can be gone. The challenge is when it happens and continues afterwards. And that's a little bit of what McKenna and I have been dealing with. Particularly someone being incredibly nasty to me. And for no reason. I laid out some clear rules of how it was going to happen. And I know people get disappointed in the world, but we need to acknowledge this is a stitching retreat. The reason I need to mention this is because I'm aware that some folks out there have gotten messages that have been slamming me. And as much as I know that the people who have received these messages have been totally ignoring them, they know I'm doing this from goodness in my heart. And I appreciate that. And I actually don't have the slightest idea how many people have received messages like that. But I'm just trusting that anyone who has gotten anything negative about me knows that it's not coming from anyone who knows and sees me. 99.5, I'll even go 99.9% of this community knows and can see that I'm a genuine, honest person. I'm a trustworthy person. And all I'm doing is a really good thing here. And it just makes me wanna, I just share this. I own exactly one hand-painted canvas. I'm not a painted canvas person. Why do I own this? Well, if you've ever been on the Needlepoint Nation Facebook group, if you're on Facebook, you can go there. It's an open, public, not closed, whatever Facebook calls it when it's not closed, open or public group. So you can see all the postings, but the banner at top, and the banner doesn't change. They change what it looks like, but it's always the same thing. It's a painted canvas. So they change who stitched it versions of it. I happen to have a magazine that has a copy of it. Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. And that when I first, not first, it's just something that Buddha and that saying and that image has just been something that has stuck with me. And it's not even necessarily that it connected within stitching world. But some long time ago, I splurged and got that painted canvas. I haven't stitched it yet. I have visions of how I will do it. It's just a good thing to have a reminder of every now and then. So be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. So that's the not so short story of how the Flosstube, New Jersey retreat has gotten started. And that's moving along. I don't plan in my videos going forward, it's not till May, to talk about it too much because I know the majority of you are not going. I'll give some updates if people are interested. But to me, it's just one part of the stitching world. I think there's plenty of other things to be sharing with all of you, like I'm going to do right now. So, what have I been stitching on? So, in these last couple of months, mostly due to teaching life and how weeknights get shorter and shorter, I feel like my stitching time has not been long. I was, for a while, working on this piece, which is one of my patterns called Calendar Kids. And you have all 12 months. And these came from a French booklet of filet lace patterns published in 1917. The months are in French, but I've charted them out in English names, and that's how I plan to stitch them. Stitching them on this bell pull band fabric, just because I wanted to try something like this. It was taking me a long time to do this. This is it's like 25 count. It's an odd size when I counted it out. I forget. It's something like that. A linen. And it just fit perfectly, which is why I had purchased it. And the blue, I just found the DMC that worked very well. But it was just taking so long to stitch it. And I attribute that to a lot of factors. But it was certainly enough for me to say that when I finished January, I definitely wanted to put it aside and need to start something else. And for me, that's often about I need to associate good things with the stitching that I'm doing. And this felt like it was tied up too much with rough nights at the end of school days, which I'm not talking about right now. So anyway, it's January is done, 11 months to go, and they will get done at some point. So I was working on this for a number of weeks, and then I put it aside. And then what I picked up, which I just shared this week or a few days ago, is a project that I had first I've seen around, posted in places. It's a counted canvas work thing that I had seen people doing for a few years, and it's always intrigued me, but I hate the colors. It boils down to this: I'm not an orange person. And I was debating, do I show you my stitching first or the original pattern first? And I kind of have to show you my stitching first. And you'll see, I'll explain why in a second. So this is what I'm working on. And I'm trying to get where the camera is. It is all specialty stitches. It's, I got the light, see. You know, the other thing that's rough at this point of the year is the time change. And I know, I mean, I truly believe, and there's probably some of you that are talking about in your videos this week, I know that this time change is hard for lots of people. It is hard for me. And I've been so focused on something else this week, which I'm going to get to, and that's been really helpful. But all this to say, I was really trying to record this video today when I had just some daylight left. But I'm losing it right now. I've got a skylight that's over there. And so I'm trying to play with the light. So this is it's Congress cloth, which is 22 count, but it's hand dyed. I haven't even counted, but it's probably changed the size a little bit. And it's softened it. So it does feel more like, almost like an Aida or it doesn't feel like Congress cloth usually feels. Congress cloth, you can feel like a soft canvas. Some of this is all just so small differences. Anyway, so this is when I finish like this part right here, this will be 1/4 of the design. And what it is, now again, totally different colors from the original. The original is reds and oranges to nearly white in the center, called Solar Flare. The designer's name is Ro Pace. Most of her projects that are available were, as I understand it, were class projects. Like, she didn't have patterns that you could buy in stores. And I was able to trace out to get this, but I was just so intrigued by the math of it, the color play, the idea, the challenge of trying to change the colors. Now what I'm doing is going dark. The center will be dark, and the outer edges are light. And I did that partially because, like in this design, the light color it was done on a white canvas, and the center matches the canvas. So I am doing where the center will match the canvas, sort of. But in doing this, it's sort of a very contemplative kind of project, because I just don't know if it'll have the right effect. I don't know if the colors are going to play out in the way that I want them to. I can't visualize it. This is my, which of course is not helpful because I didn't bother taking them out of the baggies. I'm a baggy person. I'm not a bobbin person, except for my original DMCs from years ago are bobbined. But this is not helping you at all. You can imagine it. It's shades of plummy purple. I wouldn't call it red purple, but they're more on the reddish end of the purples than the bluish end of the purples. So I will keep you posted in how it goes, because I don't know how it's going to go. We'll see. But I'm enjoying it, and that's what's important, is that it's something that I look forward to working on and seeing how it's going to evolve. And I don't even know if I'm really good, once I finish this and really get the darkest color in, and then it's literally a matter of, just repeating this 4 times. So it's not going to be that large because I'm doing it on 22 count. The original is on 18 count. Now, if I really like it, what I want to do is then do it again where it's light to, like the center is light and I go out to dark. I don't know if I'm going to have enough like you can see I have extra fabric. I don't know if I'm going to have enough fabric to do it on here. That's a long ways down the line. But there we go. That is literally what I'm currently stitching on. All right. So what else have I been up to? Well, here we go, folks. It has become really important to me that I get out some new patterns. If you are a new subscriber since the beginning of August, you might have heard me vaguely mention this, and so I need to talk about this a little bit. Last spring, I started selling my own patterns through an Etsy store called Works by ABC. My initials are ABC. That's how I named my store. And I have just so loved sharing what I come up with. Some of my designs are things that I have stitched. Some of them are things I just haven't stitched yet. I mean, if I could just have all the time in the world and stitch models of every design I come up with, the world would be great. That is unfortunately not the reality. But I have gotten out new sets of designs when I first did this in May, another set in late June. The third set was in early August. I originally set a goal of September 30th, the end of September. And once the school year started, that was just not reasonable. And then I kind of reset it and said, oh, end of October for myself. Well, last weekend, I took a serious look at what the pieces that I had, because I don't do one pattern beginning to end and move on to the next. I have these different ideas and which one am I going to explore and go on, and they were all different stages. And I'd previously done 7 patterns at a time. And I realized I had 6 that were in different stages, but in fairly decent shape. And the 7th idea was really just an idea. It is, I should say, is just an idea. It's sketches. It's a great idea. It's totally inspired by Flosstube. It's something I really want to do. I really want to design it. That said, I recognize that if I insisted to myself that I made it part of this set of designs, I don't know if I'd even make this set of designs out by the end of November. So last weekend I'd gone for a long walk, and I realized during that walk I could just do 6 new designs and that would be okay. And once I came to that realization, I have been focusing a lot of time in this last week on getting these 6 finalized. And it's been, like I said, it's been a great thing to be focusing myself on, especially during this tough time of the year with the time change and getting used to it. But here I am right now presenting my new designs to you. For those who are new or have not realized this before, in my Etsy store, I sell all of my patterns in 2 formats. You can purchase the pattern as a digital download to get it immediately, or you can purchase it as a paper copy and I will mail it to you if you prefer it that way. And the feedback I've gotten is that everyone is happy that I offer it both ways. When you go to my Etsy store, because I have enough patterns at this point, the easiest way to search or to look at what I offer is that most people know what they like. They either want digital patterns or they want paper copies. So the easiest thing is on the left-hand side, there are categories. And basically the only categories I have are paper copies or digital downloads or PDF, however I call it. So my suggestion is click on the category that you want, and then you will see the listings for just those. Basically, every pattern has 2 listings, the paper copy listing and the digital download listing. So would you like to see the new ones? I'm pausing because you're all saying yes now, right? Here we go. All right, so the first one shouldn't be a surprise because I have mentioned it. It is one of the videos during the summer, I shared with you this pin cushion that I had made a few years ago, and it was inspired by a quilt exhibit. that was just this phenomenal, amazing thing. This pincushion I actually had entered into both the Woodlawn exhibit and the A&G exhibit in the year that I made it. I loved it. This had so much meaning. And I was looking at it on the video thinking, I should put together a pattern for this. And so I have. Now the title of it, A Pincushion Homage to Infinite Variety, 3 Centuries of Red and White Quilts. That is what I called it when I entered in the A&G exhibit. So that's like its full name, but I am fully acknowledging it is just easy enough to call it the Red and White Pincushion. Does it have to be done in red? No. But again, it was completely inspired by this quilt exhibit, so that's why it is what it is. Now, full disclosure, I'm pretty sure this is the first of any of my cross-stitch patterns to include half stitches or 3/4 stitches. I always do them as 3/4 stitches. All my others are all full cross, or completely full cross. This one does have a pretty significant number of halves. So just keep that in mind if you're not a partial stitch person. Just know that. When I had entered it in the A&G exhibit, I had created, because it was sort of required, a whole artist statement. And so because I had done that, what you get, and for those who are new or who have never purchased my patterns before, one of the things that I enjoy including is background information. So for this particular one, if you are ever interested of when you've purchased a pattern, well, where did the designer come up with it? You know, where did this come from? And sometimes you'll never know the answers to those questions. Well, in a lot of my patterns, you do know, because I include this information. So this one in particular, I was able to give a lot of information. These are pictures of the actual quilts from the exhibit that I took to create the pieces. There were 651 quilts in the whole exhibit. You could Google and find images. There's an entire book, which I reference here. And I used 12 or 13 of them in this pincushion. The other thing just to note, as I said, I used half stitches. I did this on 32 count over 1. I used half stitches. Yes, I was splitting the fabric threads to do that. So if you want it this small, just keep that in mind. You could, I suppose, do it 40 count over 2 and get a relatively small pincushion. It wouldn't be this small, but if you want this size, you have to do what I did to get the partial stitches. Those 3/4 stitches, I was just like, you know, putting my needle through the fabric thread. So there you go. That is the first pattern I'm introducing to you, my red and white pincushion. Next pattern, I had shown a little preview of this, again, some videos ago. I'm calling it 3 Lacy Squares. You get 3 patterns in one. All 3 of these are, actually, I mentioned my calendar kids. These lacy squares were also inspired by filet lace designs from over 100 years ago. These 2 are exactly the same size, 89 by 89 stitches. This one is just a smidge smaller, 83 by 83. They could be stitched all together or stitched separately. They could make fabulous ornaments. You know, they could be done diagonally. They could be done, you know, in a row. Or, and this is where you saw a preview of it, I had used parts of the design, the center part. This one is the center of the green one here on the card. And this one, it's the center of this, what does it match up to? The blue one, yeah. It's the center of the blue one. And this was a little wooden thing to sit on the shelf and look pretty. And it's just the center part. So, you know, it goes to show you that all stitching designs have all kinds of uses that you don't have to even do the whole thing, even if it's a pretty small one. So 3 lacy squares, you get all 3 designs. And again, they could be put together or done separately, all kinds of uses. This next one, oh, and I meant to look up a name. In my last set of designs, I introduced you all to Owen Jones, and I'm going to talk about him again in a minute, the Grammar of Ornament. Well, he's not the only famous dude from the 1800s who put out ornament books. This is another one. Now, I admit, in my mind, I refer to this as raisinette, like the candy. I know it's not pronounced raisinette. It must be racinet? Racinet? Auguste, French, Auguste Racinet. But I just keep calling him raisinette. Okay? Racinet, historic ornament. And I have to say, I might even go and say there's even more inspiration in this one than there is in Owen Jones. Now, one of the differences, this guy was not as influential in the designing world. He does not have the writing pieces and the philosophy and the other parts of what Owen Jones did. But oh my gosh, could I come up with so many things being inspired from, and so you could see where my bookmark was. So there are lots of possibilities of potential future things in this book. And I'm not the only one. I just need to share with you, not that long ago, I got, this is the Metropolitan Museum of Art, their holiday gift catalog. I've never purchased anything, but there's some beautiful stuff in here. I just, I don't know if I could ever justify buying any of this beautiful stuff for myself or even for gifts, but there's beautiful things in here. But it's nice to look at the holiday gift catalog, and one of the things they do is lots of ornaments, and I had stopped to look at, you know, certainly things with geometric shapes always catch my eye. And when I read the description of that ornament, it's their 2017 star ornament. And I'm trying to hold it, am I holding it close enough for you to read? Become part of this delightful Met tradition with our collectible 2017 star ornament. Its lacy pattern is adapted from a decorative motif in L'Ornement Polychrome, a sumptuous volume of chromolithographs published in Paris in 1869 by Albert Charles Auguste Racinet. Now, I can't find specifically where they got this from, but this Dover Publications book, you know, if you're familiar with Dover Publications, this is only part of what was actually published in the 1860s, 70s, and 80s. So, like, the Met probably has, like, the original. It was a series of books. This is, like, 2/3 of it. So, I couldn't find this design, and it literally could be because it's not in the Dover Publication book. And I couldn't find it online, but I just loved knowing that what this guy and Owen Jones and probably some others were doing at that time, publishing works that were intended to be inspiring, intended for people to then use for decoration or for, what words did I use here? Racinet himself intended his work to be used for practical inspiration among his contemporary designers and decorators. And I love that people 150 years later, people like the designers at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and people like cross-stitch designers like myself are still being inspired by works like this. So, now I'll go back to my bookmark page. The first thing I chose to take from this came from this page here, which are medieval ornaments from a 14th century Italian manuscript. And there was the geometry of this page. It was also the color scheme of this page that really appealed to me. If you watched my video where I shared my silk gauze piece that won all the ribbons, the color scheme, the colors of that matched up. So if you focus your eye on this one in particular, and you take a look at this pattern here. So I decided to make this motif on all four sides. Of course, don't have to stitch it on all four sides because it looked a little, I mean, who knows what it looks like in the manuscript that it was actually taken from. But it just makes for an interesting, unique, geometric design. I'm calling it Ornament from an Italian manuscript. The colors, like I said, because they came from, they're predominantly, I literally used the same DMC colors. And these aren't all of them, but I figured I could hold this up. These are the ones I pulled from the set of baggies that I had from that project. So this color, this pink color family, this blue color family, so the light isn't working for me here, the yellow, the green. Of course, you're not required to use that color scheme, but that certainly appeals to my eye. So there you go, Ornament from an Italian manuscript. Then, running out of room to put things. The next one, so now I'm to number 4. If you are a Antiques Roadshow watcher, as I am, or let me rephrase, I am an Antiques Roadshow watcher, and I've learned so much over the years. And there's certain names or certain things that I know I completely learned about from the Antiques Roadshow. And the name Newcomb Pottery is absolutely definitely one of those. And a year and a half ago, there was an exhibit somewhat local to me in Princeton, New Jersey Art Museum of Newcomb Pottery. And I went because I was like, I know that name. It's from, I've seen things on the Antiques Roadshow. And it was fascinating to learn about the Newcomb Pottery. I mean, I'm sure I might have picked up this at the time of watching little clips here and there on the Antiques Roadshow. But what was fascinating about the Newcomb Pottery, based out of New Orleans from the late 1890s, its heydays in the 19-teens and 20s and 30s. It was still around, I guess, into the 50s or so, but its heyday was during the first few decades of the 1900s, of the 20th century. It was predominantly women run, or not women run, the artists were women. And what they accomplished was just amazing. Obviously this is a used copy because that's how I do books. This was the catalog of that exhibit. And I find so many things in here inspirational. Do not be surprised if down the line there are other, things like this, the vases, what you don't hear about, what I hear on the Antiques Roadshow. Of course, now I can't find, there's some vases. There we go. Things like this are what's shown on the Antiques Roadshow. You hear about the pottery of the Newcomb Pottery. What the Newcomb Pottery also was known for was embroideries. Yeah. And metalwork. Things like, not so much silverware, but like decorative metalwork. And so the embroideries and the metalwork could be another story at another time. I have some visions of like, jewelry metalwork. I have some visions of some ideas that could absolutely come to fruition related to the pottery, but that's not where I'm going here. One thing that I do remember seeing at that, it was a traveling exhibit and it had been traveling for a few years. And as I tried to look it up recently, I don't think it's anywhere. I think that Princeton stop literally might have been its last stop. But one small part of the Newcomb Pottery Studios was like the graphic arts. They did some bookbinding things, and they also did a small part, specialty on commission, things like stationery and book plates. So this is a page of book plates, like I'm assuming wealthy patrons who had their own private library and they wanted a book plate that were made specifically for them. It was designed and they needed an artist to create it. So oops, the one that's right here by my fingers. And to see that one, it's a print. Oh, am I getting the light right? This is a heavy book, people. I'm trying to hold it up. Right here, am I holding it close enough that you can see that it's printed and it's ink drawn, or however it was actually created, but it's made to look like cross stitching, like a sampler. And it just appealed to me. Now I know nothing about Jane Stone Marfield. I know that the art, there's an artist that is attributed to this book plate. Um, I would wish I knew whether Jane had her influence in the design and then just told this artist, I want a book plate that has all these things in it. I want an elephant. I want some ducks. I want some trees. I want a parrot on a pole. I want a butterfly in the center. Or whether the artist had free reign. I wonder, given the motifs that are in there, was it for a child? And it was a wealthy mother who wanted her daughter to have her own book plates for her library? I have no idea. But especially because it was done in a sampler look. It was not stitched. It was like hand-drawn little X's. And if you zoom in, as I did, you could see places where they messed up their X's. But I thought it deserves to be stitched. So I've created Jane's book plate as a stitch, as a pattern. As close as I could get it. You know, with any reproduction sampler out there. I didn't get it exact. I'll admit that, okay? But I'm calling this Jane's book plate. That said, I have also created an alphabet that you could put in this place right here if you wanted to put your own name. I mean, obviously it says her book because that was in the original book plate. You don't have to include that. You could literally use the top border for the bottom border and then it would fit just fine. And I've included the information that I do have, that the book plate was dated 1926. It's 4.5 by 6.5 inches. The name of the artist. She's the name that's put on most of the book plates in here, but she also did pottery as well. I wish I knew something about Jane Marfield but I don't. But if you wish to stitch a little tribute, or just the idea appeals to you, that there was something out there that looked like it was stitched, time to make it stitched. So there you go, Jane's book plate. So those are my 4 cross-stitch patterns that I'm putting out at this time. I am also putting out a blackwork design. I have one other blackwork pattern out that you could find in my Etsy store if you haven't seen it already. It is based off of quilt squares. This one, I'm bringing back out another heavy book. Owen Jones, The Grammar of Ornament. Talked about him the last time I put out patterns. His influence in the design world starting in the 19th century. On this page are patterns or motifs that are from the Elizabethan era, and specifically they come from, I gotta put this down, sorry people, I don't hold it well that way. The patterns on this page come mostly from, hold on, churches, and they're mostly stone things, ornaments from churches and wood carvings from various places. There was one in particular that I thought, again, the appeal of the geometry, and it also just had the right spaces for me to play around with in creating a blackwork design. And so also included in here is the background information about Owen Jones, that I've done some research on him, and about that particular page, what I know about it, and like I said, he was a pretty influential designer. He's a name that more people should know about, and so I'm going to do my little part to make him more well known. And there's so many things in this book that have so much potential inspiration to me. And I think there was also, it wasn't part of my original thinking, but it definitely evolved. By choosing a motif from the Elizabethan era section, there's a connection with blackwork, because blackwork definitely has historical origins during that time period. Um, there's some debate. Oh, I was going to show you guys. When I was working on this, once I had the basic layout, and then I got to the fun stuff of working on the blackwork fillings, I pulled out, I said, all right, let me go get all the blackwork books I have so I, have things to work with. And I realized, yeah, I got a lot of blackwork books, people. Okay? I had lots of things to choose from. So yeah, I've been interested in blackwork for a while, and both the history and like that kind of background, as well as patterns and potential sources of things. So, Elizabethan blackwork ornament, and again the word ornament coming from the historical use of it being a motif that is intended to inspire and to be used over and over again. That's number 5. Number 6, the last thing to share with you is, again, something that I have previewed already in some videos because I've shown you that I've been stitching on it. I started this summer sharing, and I've just loved doing this. In addition to cross stitch, which I love designing and love working on, there's something to be said for me about canvas work, and there's just I just enjoy it an awful lot. So I'm calling this canvas work square number 3. If you've not seen already, this is number 1. This is number 2. This is my 3rd one, and I like them. I get more and more excited each time I've been creating one of them. If you have never done canvas work before, but you're even the slightest intrigued, this is the idea. I have created these to be beginner projects. They do not use fancy threads. It only uses three threads, and as charted DMC. Now, you could go and get some beautiful over dyes and silks or whatever, but you can also acknowledge that this is intended that it could be stitched with just 3 DMC colors. Any colors, you don't have to do the greens that I did. My instructions for these are they're complete instructions intended for beginners. So just to show you, well, there's a chart, but you have full diagrams with numbers, you have pictures, you have a full description of what to do and how to do it. I truly, and the more that I have met stitchers online here, I've just wanted to share the fun of canvas work. It's not for everybody. And I'm not saying everyone has to give it a try. I'm just saying if you're somebody who's ever been like intrigued with the idea, but didn't even know how you could even go about trying it, I'm offering a way to try it. Now, I'm even offering it in the way that, here we go. So, you will see on my store that each of these can be purchased not 2 ways, but 3 ways. I offer it as a digital download, I offer it as a paper copy, but I also offer it as a paper copy with a piece of 9" by 9" canvas. Because the other piece about canvas work that stops some people from trying it is just getting this stuff. It's 18 count. It's stiffer than, an 18 count Aida or 36 count linen for sure. The holes, is it in any way going to show you? That the holes are thicker or bigger than holes would be in relation to the threads on canvas than they are on Aida or fabric. Does that make sense? But the point is, getting a piece this size is not always the easiest thing. Getting floss, easier. So I realized that if I wanted to do this, if I could offer, by me buying a piece of it and cutting it up, if I offered selling it to people, there'd be interest. And there have been way more purchases of the paper copy with the canvas than any other way of purchasing it. Now, if you've never stitched on it before and you're hesitant, how do I stitch on it? You can stitch in hand. I find it uncomfortable, but that's me. The traditional way is to get some wooden stretcher bars and use tacks. These used to be so easy to find in like your Michaels and Joann's. They are no longer easy to find in Michaels and Joann's. And so you often do need to go to, certain needlework stores. That said, I tested this out myself. I know many of you cross stitchers have Q-snaps. You can take some scrap fabric, sew in any way you want, sewing machine or hand sew your scrap fabric to the canvas, and then just use your Q-snaps. Totally works. I would not put the canvas directly to the Q-snaps because I think it'll break the Q-snap. That's just me. But something like this, just some scrap fabric that you might have, would work. And it's a way that you could give a try to something new. So if this design appeals to you, and I'm not even holding it the right way. It doesn't really matter. It is pretty symmetrical anyway. This is called Canvas Work Square number 3. So there you go, folks. My 6 new designs, which I am so excited to get out and to be sharing with all of you. The last thing on my list, I have done this the last few times, and I am excited to do it again. The video I put out in the middle of September, I had said, whenever my new patterns are done, if you would like the opportunity to win one, leave your initials on that video in the comments. And took me a little bit to find which video it was that I did this on. Now, I have in front of me my bowl. I'd written down everyone's name, cut them up. I know how to use a number generator, people. But we're all stitchers. We're all used to using our hands for so much. And I just like, a long time ago, beginning of the summer, I saw somebody doing it like this. And I just like this. So that's how I'm doing it. So I am giving away right now, right in front of your very eyes. I'm trying to give a good mix up here. I'm giving away 3 patterns of your choice. So if you win, you choose what you want. And it could be one of these 6, or you could go in my store and especially if you are new to me, and find other ones that you would prefer. Totally up to you. Okay. So here we go. Right, none of them are spilled out. So here we go. So, oops. I should have folded them 3 times. I'm really good. Okay, here we go. The first one, digging it right here, is going to Joanne Jones. Okay. The next one, good mix up right here. I'll take one that's in my fingers right here, is going to, I'm recognizing this name, Doxy Mula, aka the Lazy Stitcher. And then the third one, mixing things up. I'll dig in. I'm going to take this one that's in my fingers right here, right between these fingers. This one right here is Karen Miller. So congratulations to these 3 people. If you're watching, the easiest thing is if you could contact me at worksbyabc@gmail.com. That would be awesome. Or else I'll work on getting in touch with you. I need to end with my thanks. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for comments, which just mean the world to me. They really do. Thank you for support. Thank you for all the kindness that is shared, because as I said before, the vast majority of this community is so much kindness, and it is so appreciated. I'm going to put the links to all my new patterns down below, so you could go direct. If you saw something you like, you can go directly to it, or just go to my store and check things out. I appreciate everyone who's shown an interest in me, because it means an awfully lot. I hope you're having a great stitchy day. Until next time, bye-bye.